in we're in Yaakov. In Yaakov, in Brachot 61a4, we were dealing with people. The Gemara was dealing with people who will not be spared from judgment in Gehenna. And the last thing we said was that you shouldn't count up money, give it to a woman's hand. If you're going to gaze at the hand and get derive some illicit benefit from it, if you will. In other words, you're going to think in a lewd manner of her. So the next part is of her Amar of Nachman, following the same thing of lewdness with a woman. Manoach am ha'aretz haya, that Manoach, the father of Shmuel, was an ignorant man. How do we know he's an ignorant man? Dichti, because it says in the verse Vayelech Manoach acher ishto, that Manoach walked after his wife, or followed his wife. And it says Manoach was unaware of the Braita, which states that a person should not walk behind his wife. Now, why shouldn't he walk behind his wife? Lewdness, okay, you could say it could lead to what, right? It would be that, or it says that that's right. Well, where was it? It was.
Wasn't before it says a man can walk behind his wife as long as he doesn't go too far into like, or a man can gaze at his wife as long as he doesn't go too much into it. Isn't that something I said before? At his wife, a man can gaze at his wife.
No, it's actually. You can gaze at your wife, and it's not a problem.
Or not a problem.
So the problem. Say again.
You shouldn't walk behind your wife.
You shouldn't walk behind somebody else's. Well, that's what the Marshal is saying here. Right. He says right that you shouldn't. Ksakash. There's a bit of a kash. He says a bit of a question. That was certainly the verse said that Manoach walked behind V'yada. Lomar Achrei Ish. It was known that he went after the man, Velo Lifnei Ish, and not before the man. So it's the woman would go behind the man, not before the man. V'hainu davka be'eshet acher. This is talking about somebody else's wife, though, not your wife. Mishum Yisora the eshet, because there's a prohibition of eshet ish. Have kavanid kad shal Yitzchak, and Eliezer. In this case, Rivka was already mikadeshet to Yitzchak. She was already set aside for Yitzchak. So that's why Rivka went behind Eliezer, and Eliezer didn't go behind Rivka, because it was somebody else's wife. So it wasn't that really. It really wasn't that Manoach was an Am Haaretz. El mishum delo yada derech eretz. What he was saying was the halacha. This is an interesting statement. The halacha is I can't walk behind somebody else's wife, but I can walk behind my wife. That's the strict halacha. Leave me alone. So he said what he wasn't schooled in was derech eretz, correct behavior. The Braita Le'el of the above quoted Braita, the Tani afilu acher ishto lo yelech, that even after his own wife, he shouldn't be walking behind his own wife. Umisham ganai, because it's considered a not respectable situation. Again, whenever you're going to do something that's not respectful, even though that it is permissible, you shouldn't do it. That's what we call derech eretz. So the Gemara here is starting off with this concept of he was an Am Haaretz based upon this. So the Gemara says, Matkifle Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak and now you'll see the whole argument. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak argued, and he said, Elamanta, but if you're going to say that the word followed is to be taken literally to mean that he walked behind her, Gabi Elkanah, so considering the case of Elkanah, who was Shmuel's father, Dichti V'yelech Elkanah Achrei Ish, it also says that Elkanah walked behind his wife. What does that mean? He was Am Haaretz, And further, V'gabi Elisha, again, Elisha the prophet, Dichtiv, Vayakam v'yelech achareh, that he got up and he walked after the woman who was inviting him to his house to stay there, and she would set a room up for him, and so on and so forth. Achinami achareh mamash. Is this also to be taken literally, that he walked behind her, another man's wife? Chas v'shalom. Rather it means el achrei divareh v'achar atzata. Rather, in those cases, it means he followed her words and followed her advice, not that he actually walked behind her. Hachanami. So if that's the case here also, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak is arguing, Manoach didn't walk behind his wife, because that would be a lack of derech eretz. Rather, acharei divareh v'achara atzata. Rather, he followed her words, and he followed her advice. So you can't prove from here that he was an ignorant man. That Manoach was an ignorant man. If you're going to say that Manoach was an ignorant man, then you have to say that Elisha was an ignorant man, and that Elkanah was an ignorant man, and they all did it. It says they all followed their wives, so if that's the case, you have to say they all are, but we don't. But we know that they were not. So they were following her advice, or the directions, whatever the going to be. So you can say the same thing about Manoach. So from here, you can't prove that he was an ignorant man. Okay? Amar Rav Ashi. So according to what Rav Nachman said, that Manoach was an ignorant man and actually walked behind his wife. I feel it be Rav Nami lo kara. So he must not have even read scripture in school. If you want to argue that, he didn't even go to school. Shneamar v'takam Rivka v'naroteh. Because it says that Rivka got up and her maid servants, or whatever you want to call Na'arateh, her the grocer took over the maidens, okay. But Tirkavna ala Gamalim, and they rode upon the donkeys, Teilachna Acharei Ish, and she went after the man. V'lo lifnei Ish, and up in front of the man. So he never learned bracious, to know that there's common decency not to go behind. And so they explained, Ben Yohadaya explains, if the only reason for Rebecca following Eliezer was so that Eliezer could show her the way to his master's home, it would have been unnecessary for the verse to mention that Eliezer went first, because it's obvious, right? The Torah specifically relates that Rebecca followed Eliezer to teach us that there is a deeper significance to the order in which they rode. Because if I'm following your direction, I don't need to say I went after you. It would be understood. So Rav Yochanan said, Acharei Ari. That's the end of that. Now we're going to a different situation. If I have to make a choice of who to follow, so it says Acharei Ari v'lo Acharei Isha. If the choice is between going behind a lion and a woman, it's better to go behind the lion than to go behind the woman. And he said, okay, yeah.
This is a hypothetical thing.
Hypothetical.
Right. So it's just for to clear one that it's really you should walk behind a woman.
Yes.
Not actually if there's a lion in the street and a woman in the street, you walk behind the lion. Or if you have, the point is, if you have no choice, right, and you have to make a choice, yes, it's hypothetical. That's what you mean? By hypothetical, yeah. Yes. If you had no choice, it would be better to walk behind the lion than to walk behind the woman. Because the woman is alluring, hopefully the lion is not. Right. So, but this probably didn't happen. There wasn't a case where somebody...
No, of course not.
Just proving that it's better to walk behind anyone but a woman. Even on anything.
Well, we'll find out in 2 seconds. That's not necessarily true. So now the choice is, if I have a choice between a woman and idolater, or an idol, Acharei Isha, it's better to walk behind the woman, and rather than go behind an idol. Why? Because he may be drawn to become its follower. And Scripture explicitly warns distance your path from it, the idol, which the Gemara understands referred to a heresy. So if I'm going to be going to an idol, if I have the choice, only the choice is in front of me, either the woman or the idol, I go with the woman. Because what's the worst is going to happen, right? I have a suspicion. The odds are it's not going to happen with the woman, but it could happen with the idolatry. There's more of a draw to that. If I have a choice between an idol or walking behind the shul when the people are davening, and I have a choice. I can either walk, so I'm walking by the back where people will see me walking and ignoring them, or idolatry. So what do you think you go for? Right. You go acharei avodah chavim. You go bed to go behind an idol, and velo acharei beit knesset b'sha'a shehatzibor mitpalalin. It's better not to walk in the back of the Beit Knesset. Behind it, when the congregation is davening, and not to go in. Okay, in ours, obviously, if you're going in, you're going in. But if you're not going in, so what's going to be? So the Maharsha explains, one who passes the entrance of a shul while the congregation is engaged in prayer and does not enter, and demonstrates a disdain for prayer. This could be perceived as a denial of the efficacy, the power of prayer altogether. Stemming from a lack of belief in the ability of God to influence events in response to prayer. Such an attitude is even worse than that of idolatry, which may involve belief in a number of powers, but not a complete denial of God. Go ahead.
I have two questions.
Yeah, I saw 2 hands.
One, were synagogues made so when you're davening you could see the entrance of the shul? Is that just how they were? The entrance of the shul was on the east. Was that the east?
And it wasn't necessarily on the east.
Or wherever they would be facing to daven, that's where the entrance of the shul would be?
No.
So how would they see you walking by? Were just big
Windows, could be anything.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. You have to. It was like a little house. They didn't have shuls like we have today. And you're picturing shuls today. It was in the fields or something. There was a little house, so it would have been like this. They probably had windows, but you could see. Yeah. You probably could see outside. I'm sure that in the big cities they may have had nicer buildings, but it's in general it's just a regular building, not a big one. So if you're walking behind it, again, you're walking. At this point, you're just walking behind it, you're not entering it, and it's time of prayer. That's the point. It's time for prayer. It's not that it's not time for prayer.
Oh, okay.
It's a time for prayer. When they're davening, so you should normally go in. Okay.
And the second question is, if the thing for idolatry, it's better to walk behind the idol than to show disdain for God and the power of God, as it were, as it says. Then does that mean atheists are worse than idol worshippers?
Yes. Yes, atheists are worse than idol worshippers because atheists deny God. Idols don't deny God. They could be partnership gods. They could be a pantheon, as you said last night, a pantheon of gods. The atheist is denying everything. So yeah, he's worse than the atheism. I shouldn't say the person. The person may be a very nice guy, but the concept of atheism is worse than idolatry, 100%. Yeah.
Does this thing I'm talking about, like walking by a shul while it's davening, is that related to the whole? You shouldn't use a shul as a shortcut.
It's related, possibly. But when it comes to using the shul as a shortcut, the reason the rabbis didn't want that was you're showing disdain for the shul. So it's not so much for God. And that's why they say if you just went to shul and sat down for 2 seconds, said Ashrei Yoshvei V'techa Od Chasela, and after that you left, there's no problem with using the shul as a shortcut. But if I'm going to just go through it, that shows a disdain for everything. So you shouldn't do that. It's like a derech eretz. But
if you go through,
no, if people are davening, you walk through them. At least you get a main out of that. Hopefully, again, you're not showing disdain.
Okay.
People are not as much anyway. Not as much. You entered, right? So if I have the choice to make it a shortcut or to go behind the idolater, or to go to a idol, I'm going to make the shortcut. I'll again just stop, say Asher Yosh Ve'Vitecha, and that's it. So because what it is Amar and Ayin. It's more what the eye appears, what appears to the eye. If I'm walking behind the shul and you see me, so then walking behind the shul, so then ignoring going in, so then you're going to say I don't believe in the power of prayer. Yeah.
So what if you have a place to go?
I have a place to go. Yeah.
A place to go, and you need to go there for whatever reason, and you walk through the shul because you're trying to not go by an idol, trying to use the shul as a shortcut, and you walk in, they do barak because you're the 10th guy. Do you stay there?
Of course you have to stay.
Oh, okay.
No, you're right. But again, because you have to make the minyan, so they need to say Kaddish. But hopefully it's not a town that you need to have. Yeah.
No, this is Mara, but
say again.
The whole Mara is what it looks like.
But
I'm
right.
saying if it's a case where you've already davened, so obviously you believe in the power of prayer and what God can do through that. So, but you've already davened, and somebody sees you walking by a shul, they don't know that you've already davened. So if you've already davened, and they see you walking by, they don't know that.
Correct.
So, okay, that's still the same case.
You're assuming that there's only
Right.
the understands something. I'll run through. Let me just run through the gemara. Let me run through the gemara, and you'll see all the cases here. Okay, because then a lot of your questions will be answered. I just stopped on milk because I want to get something else, but I'll go back to that. We do not say that he may not pass behind the shul when they are praying, except where he is not carrying something. If he is carrying something, late ban. There is no objection because people see he's not entering because he has a burden of carrying something. So it's obvious. I'm working. I don't have time to go in. It's not that I don't believe in it. I've davened already. Leave me alone. Or I'm going to daven later. Whatever the case is going to be. Velo amaran. And furthermore, we only say he shouldn't go behind the shul ela deleka pitcha acharina, except where there is no other entrance to the shul other than the one he is passing. V'iika pitcha acharina. But if there is another opening, late leba, there's no objection because the onlooker will assume that he enters means to enter by the other entrance. I see somebody walking up here, and then suddenly they disappear behind the building, even though we only use the front entrance. It's been unknown that people enter through the exit door. Okay, so that's why I'll walk back into the shul, and lo and behold, I was right, and we have a minyan. Right, it happens. So if there's more than one entrance, we don't say this doesn't apply. Furthermore, vilo amaran ela delo rachiv chamara. We do not say this is prohibited except where he is not riding a donkey. Aval rachiv chamara, or today updated driving his car, riding his bike, whatever the case is going to be. Late lan ba. But if he is riding a donkey, there is no objection. Again, since the onlooker assumes that he is not entering the shul only because he cannot leave the animal attendant, the car running, the bike unlocked, so on and so forth. Okay. V'lo amaran ela delo manach tefillin, and we do not say that he is prohibited except when he is not. We did not say that this is prohibited except where he is not wearing tefillin. Aval manach tefillin leit leba. But if he is wearing tefillin, there is no objection. Why? Since someone who wears tefillin is obviously not the type of person who would deny the efficacy of prayer. Okay, so in other words, if there's some way to identify this person is on Apikoros, he has a kippah, he has tzitzis on. Let's update this again. Let's just be clear. Updates here. Okay, if he's doing this, then he can walk behind the shul. It's not going to be a problem. We're not going to assume. If there are other shuls in town, you're not the only game in town. So then again, we don't have to have that suspicion. We can assume that he is going to the other shul or the other minyan. Let's say a shul has more than one minyan, which is, again, in this town is certainly true. We have multiple minyanim sometime at the same time. So when the people are sleeping in their beds, we don't know where they are because they can always say, "Oh, I went to the other minyan." Okay, fine. And unless, of course, unless we all get together and say, "Did he show up?" We do a full length investigation. You're not going to know, and that's why sometimes you find people coming to this minyan who normally never showed up to this minyan, but because they missed the other minyanim, they come. So it happens. Happens. That's the joy when you have more than one minyan. So that takes away a lot of the questions, right? And I mean that's really what you're looking at. Yep. So the Iyun Yaakov says in this whole thing, why did he say better to go behind the lion than to go behind the woman? So it says Shahare David Hika et Ari Venilkad. Because David, when he, in one of the stories, he kills the lion, right? The lion's attacking his flock. He kills the lion. No, that is Goliath with the sling. He kills the lion with his, I guess, bare hands, whatever. However he kills him. He kills him. I forget how he kills him. Yet, Venilka Batshava. But he was captured by Batshava. In other words, the woman that he saw taking the bath, that ultimately would be Shlomo's mother. So he was captured by her beauty, and that's why better to go behind the lion, because he can defend himself against the lion, than the woman. That's why it says behind the woman, and then it says behind the woman, and not behind an idol, ki teshuvato kashe. Because the teshuva for the idolatry is much more difficult, because you're kofer be'ikar, you denied the essential, you denied Hashem. And also when you walk behind the Beit Knesset, when the congregation is praying, so mar'eh, again it's a case of maret ayin, what the eye perceives. Marek shekofer bicholet vashgachat hakadosh baruch hu legamrei. It seems as if you are denying the ability and the guidance, supernal guidance of God completely. Al kain hu garua mikulam, and that is the worst from all of them. Shahoklan be'knesset misaprim sicha betela toch tvila. Also, and call them more so those who go to the back of the shul and say and talk lashon hara, or talk needless words in the midst of tefillah. So how many people will say that one? Okay, only Yaakov. So he not only picks on somebody for walking behind the shul, but he even extends this and says kol sheken, all the more so people who go in the back of the shul and start speaking. Batela is the sports talk or something, business, frivolous talk. It could be business, it could be anything. In other words, when you're coming to daven, the most important thing is to daven. You're talking to God. You're not talking to your neighbor, you're not talking to your kid, you're not doing anything else. You're talking to God. So when you're talking to God, you don't want to, again, somebody comes to you and wants to talk with you, you just don't even listen. Just put the towels over your head. Do what you have to do. To say, I'm not interested. I'm closed off. This is not the time to talk. And it doesn't matter if it's Pesukah or Zimra. It doesn't matter where it is. It's not the time to talk. I'm talking to God. I'm getting myself ready to talk to God, whatever the case is going to be. So that's why the Iyun Yaakov is picking on that and saying that you have to be careful with that. Okay? Good. So now we go further. And it says, where is it? Next page. Okay, so Amarav Yetzer Hara Domet L'Zvuv. The evil inclination resembles a fly. How? V'yoshev bein shnei maftichei halev. The evil inclination sits between the two gateways of the heart. Shneamar, as it says, Zavuve Mavet Yavish Yabiyah Shemim Rokeach. Flies of death corrupt and putrefy perfumed oil. That's from Ecclesiastes. And he says the verse alludes to the evil inclination, just as a single dying fly can fall into a large container of perfumed oil and make it putrid, so the evil inclination can worm its way into the heart of someone whose reputation and good name was fine and is widely known as the wafting fragrance of perfumed oil, and bring him to ruin. Yeah.
What's the word for fly in Hebrew?
Zavuv.
It sounds like a fly flying around.
Okay. I don't know.
What's the word for a word that sounds like bang, crash? Those words, they sound like what's happening. They sound like those things that happen.
Yeah, something like that.
That word sounds like a fly flying around.
Something like, yeah, could be. It's Pity or something like that. I'm not sure. I know what you're talking about. I don't know. Yeah. Sounds like what it is, right? So, okay, so then it says, Tana Rabbanan, another reading like this is, Shtei Klayot Yeshbo. There are a person has two kidneys. Achat yoatzu l'tova, v'achat yoatzu l'ra'a. One counsels him to do good, and one counsels him to do evil. So in the Torah, it says that the kidneys are depicted as a seat of counsel within the body. Yeah.
So when you're donating,
your kidney, right?
If you ever donate your kidney, make sure you donate.
There you go.
No, wait. We're not supposed to donate the bowel. Not that you don't.
Okay, he's making a joke. He's making a joke.
Okay.
It's a joke. Okay.
I'm making a joke too.
Okay. Oh, Mistabra, he wants to be nice to the person. He wants to give him the good one. Okay, and Mistabra, the Tova, the Mina, by the way, how do you know which is good and bad? So it follows that the good one is on the right. V'ra'a l'smolo, and the bad one is on the left. How do we know? Dichtiv lev chacham lemino v'lev kisil l'smolo. As it says in Isaiah, the heart of a wise man is to his right, and the heart of the fool is to his left. So, yeah, it's all psukim, yeah.
My left or your left?
Your left.
Okay. Yeah. Because when the doctor's opening me up and moving everything around, my left becomes his right.
Right. Correct. You are correct with that, but still the person is right. My right arm always remains my right arm, regardless of what perception you have. Okay. And then, say it again?
I'm sure doctors are trained to know which side of the body they're doing.
I certainly hope so. If they don't, then we're all, people there are in trouble. Okay. Yeah. So then we get some more medical advice from the Gemara here. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned, Kilayot Yuatzot, the kidneys counsel. Again, it's from the verse in Psalms, I will bless Hashem who counsels me even by night. My kidneys admonish me. Lave Maven, the heart considers which counsel to accept. Okay, again, it's a verse from Isaiah, in his heart will consider. Lashon, the language, the tongue. Mechatech articulates. Peh, Gomer, the mouth concludes the process by giving utterance to his decision. Veshet, Machnis Mose kol mine machal, the esophagus takes in and out all types of food. Kane motzi kol, the windpipe gives a voice. Turn the page. Reya shoevet kol mine mashkin, the lung draws all types of liquids. Now here he explains all the liquids are ingested by way of the esophagus. The lungs then absorb them through the stomach walls. That's how Rashi says it. Kaved, ko'es. Let me just finish this. The liver becomes angry. It is the root of anger in the body. Mara zorekebo tipa umanichato. And the gall injects a drop into it and calms the liver. Okay, I'm guessing. Techol sochek, the spleen laughs, which means the Kuzari explains that the spleen cleans the blood from obscuring matter, producing cheerfulness and laughter. Korkaban tochen, the gizzard grinds food this way. Hold on. The gizzard is the muscular stomach of birds. It corresponds to the omasam, the third stomach in ruminants. Okay. Keva yashena, the stomach sleeps. It induces sleep. Apparently, when you eat a lot, you get tired. Af neor, the nose awakes. It induces wakefulness. So now we have a statement. Neor hayashen yashina neor. If the sleeping one, the stomach wakens, and the waking one, the nose sleeps, nimok v'olichlo, then he languishes away, which means if the functions of the stomach and nose are reversed, so that his nose induces sleep and his stomach wakefulness, then he will languish away. That's one explanation. Alternatively, the Breiter is discussing two different cases. If the stomach acts in concert with the nose, so they both keep him awake and then he cannot sleep at all, or if the nose acts in concert with the stomach, so they both induce sleep and can hardly awaken, then he will languish and die. So Tana, we learned in another Breiter, Im shneim yoshenim or shneim yorim, if both the stomach and the nose sleep or both awaken, miyad mate, he will die quickly. Yes. Your question is so one or two? I only saw one hand.
I don't know. So
okay.
The kidneys.
Kidneys, yes.
What? So would that be what?
Counsel.
Counsel. So that would be what we call a gut instinct, or gut decision.
Oh. I don't know. Could be. I'm not sure where the English came from, man. Yeah, could be.
What do kidneys do again? They filter blood. I thought that's liver, guys. Oh, that's liver.
Kidneys, what do they, you mean according to doctors? Not a doctor.
I don't know.
Not a doctor.
I don't know, it's a liver.
Kidney, what are kidneys? It's, do you know what, she left, okay. I'm not sure what kidneys actually do. And let's understand something. There's two concepts that go on in the Gemara. There's two ways to understand the Gemara when it talks about all these medical statements. One is that they're talking. One is that there's a real function that we know, a function that we know of from the medical field. This is what blank does, and this is what blank does. Okay, and then there is from the verses, they derive from verses. There's a spiritual part to those organs. Right. So the heart is a pump. That's all it is. It's a pump that keeps the blood going. Okay, you go to a doctor, they're going to tell you it's a heart. Heart is your pump. You can replace the heart, no problem. We take part A, put it into part B, and that's the end of it. Boom, done. Okay, like in a car, you have a carburetor, it doesn't work. Throw the carburetor out, muffler, everything's exchangeable. Okay. By the way, it's not true. In a car, it's true, but in the body, it's not. Because what happens? You take somebody else's heart, you put, assuming it's a match. That's number one. It's not every heart fits equally, but not every carburetor fits equally either. So let's be honest about that. So, but what I do is I get a heart that's supposedly perfect for this person. I put it in. The person that has to be on drugs the rest of their life. They can never break off from those drugs because the body's rejecting. So it's a piece that they're rejecting. It's something brand new. A car never does that. Yeah, I don't think a car knows to reject. So, but a body does. So you have to be on drugs for all these things. So we're seeing there that things are not interchangeable. That's number one. Number two, let's say that a person, again, if I'm going with the seat, if the heart is the emotion, which is why you have Valentine's Day where the little, whatever that thing is, shoots an arrow into the heart. Okay, or when we say love, I make a heart. Cupid, I couldn't remember what it was. Cupid shoots the arrow into the heart of the person. Okay, and that's why again we have the heart because we want to say love. It's representative of love. So why is that the seed? It may be the seed of love. It may be that, and so spiritually, that may be where things come from. So now, that was originally one of the I never saw it in print, but I heard that was originally one of the things that the rabbis were against. Some of the rabbis were against heart transplant. They said, how can you take somebody else's heart and put it to there? Okay, but the same thing, by the way, as a brain transplant. When I take the brain, I take it from patient 1, put it to patient 2. The brain is where all my stuff is stored, right? That's the storage. So now, imagine you wake up and you say, wait a second, I'm a woman today. Or, wait a second, I didn't look like this before. I can't imagine you're going to be a happy camper. Right. You also don't know your own body. Your body you're used to, I can do a certain amount of push-ups. Suddenly they put me into a weightlifter's body, and what am I doing here? I don't even know how to move this thing. Right. So I don't know how, in the world of science fiction, anything can happen, but in reality, it is what it is. So like I said, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I think when we look in these gemaras, we have to. I'm sure some people go, and fly through it. But really, what we're supposed to learn from this is there's a spiritual component to these things. And there's a function in the spiritual world that the rabbi saw. Now, you could also say stage number 3 is that was the science of those days. That was how they understood it, and leave it as that. I don't necessarily buy that. I think there's much deeper things going on here. And like I said, I think that depending on what we do and what how we treat ourselves, and again, with kaved koes, where the liver becomes angry, in other words, that's the root of the anger in the body. It would be interesting to note if liver disease is found more in angry people, or people who do something like that, or if the other way, if I could meditate myself out of all these things. In other words, if I keep myself calm, if I'm even balanced, because I understand that God's running everything, so on and so forth. Will a person have less a chance of getting liver disease, or whatever the case is going to be? Okay, it would just be interesting if you would have that sort of. I'm looking for one thing. I don't know where it is. Okay, there's one other thing. I want to go back to the zavuv because there was an interesting part of the zavuv, the fly. I thought I don't know where it is here though. I didn't see it. Oh, I know what that is, but I'm saying I don't remember. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to go through it because, like I said, it was an interesting thing from the Yaakov. Going back to the zvuv, where it sits in the heart and so on and so forth. It says, and then it says, Shmuel, well, I don't see it. Why don't I see it? Before I go with this, I just want to make sure. Maybe it's later on. I must have just missed it. I don't know how. Oh, I did miss it. I'm sorry. Okay, what happened was, right, I skipped it. That's what happened. Okay, I said the Yetzer Hara is like the Zvuv, it's like the fly, and that it sits between the two gates of the heart. And then Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel said, that is Kaminchita Hudome, but Shmuel said that the Yetzer Hara is like wheat. Shenamar, it says, the Petach Hatat Robeit. Sin crouches at the door. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so now the Maharal explains that the dispute between Rav and Shmuel as follows. Rav maintains that the evil inclination, which is part of man's nature that inclines to evil, is itself degenerate and corrupt and is therefore attracted to degeneracy and corruption. He therefore likens it to a fly which is foul and attracted to that which is spoiled, corruption. Okay? Flies like garbage. But Shmuel maintains that it is that which is most fine in man, that perversely is attracted to evil and corruption, just as opposite poles attract each other. He therefore likens it to wheat, which is especially choice and fine. So, that's number one. The Iyun Yaakov says on this, Efshe, it says possible, do Peligi, the Rav, that Shmuel is not arguing with Rav. The Rav, Mayri Bereshayim to Domen L'Zavuv, because Rav, speaking of Reshaim, of wicked people, that it compares to the fly, Shu Moes Meshukatz Metuav, that is disgusting and detestable. He really gets all the words here. And then Shmuel, the Amar Kiminchita, when Shmuel saying is like the Yetzirah is like wheat, that is for tzaddikim gemorim, complete tzaddikim, complete righteous people. She'ena Yetzirah sholed etzlam, the Yetzirah can't even, has no rulership over them. Except for that which is necessary to have children. In other words, you have to get married. So that's Yetzer Hara kicking in, saying, I need to get married, I have to fulfill the mitzvah, blah, blah, blah. Just as the chita sends out the chaff, and you, just like with meat, that you throw the chaff away and you eat the flour, and the fine flour, that's why I picked on chita itself, the wheat itself, she'en shum sar umazal sholet alav, because the wheat, there's no constellation that rules over it, Kiyam HaKadosh Baruch Hu, except for God. Only God does, right? But Atzmo by himself. Because, and even though it says, Akol Tzarichan, L'Mare, even though it says everything needs to have some guide, everything else, trees and so on and so forth, they all have something else in them. Chite, Cain, El-Male, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezro, Eno Yechol, but if it wasn't for Hashem, this chite could not, the wheat could not grow, nothing could happen to it, okay, because it's so small, so it wouldn't have anything to help it grow. So it's only from Hashem. Okay, that's what I want to get to. Now we can go on. I knew I skipped something. Okay, and now we are on 61b1. Tanya, we learned in a Braita, Rabbi Yosef Glili, Omer, Rabbi Yosef Glili says, Tzadikim Yetzer Tov Shoftan. The righteous are ruled entirely by their good inclination. How do we know? Shnei Amar, it says, V'libi chalal b'kirbi, as it says, and my heart, the evil inclination has died within me. This verse teaches that King David was so mastered his evil inclination that it was as if it had died inside of him. Others explain that the hallmark of a completely righteous person is that his evil inclination has been completely refined and transformed, so that his whole heart prompts him only to do good. When it comes to the wicked, they are ruled entirely by the evil inclination. It says, as it says, think I, David, in my heart, evil speaks to the wicked, saying, let there be no fear of God before his eyes. The evil inclination causes the wicked to completely lose sight of the fear of heaven, so that they are altogether dominated by the evil inclination. Indeed, the hallmark of a thoroughly wicked person is that his good inclination has been completely eradicated, and his whole heart prompts him only to evil. Okay. So the average person is ruled by both. Although their deeds may be flawless, their hearts are a constant battleground between the promptings of their good and evil inclinations. So most of us are bein onim, most of us are the guy in the middle, and that's why we have to do tshuva every day. Okay, and how we know that they're equal? Shneamar Yamod Limin Evyon Loshia Mishovte Nafsham, and it says, God shall stand by the right of the poor man to save him from the rulers of his soul. The verse speaks of an average person who is torn between the two rulers of his soul, the good and the evil inclinations, and who therefore needs God's support in order for his good inclination to emerge victorious. Amarava, so Rava said, Kagon anu beinonim, by this yardstick, people such as ourselves are considered average. This Rava of the Gemara saying that he was average. So Amalei Abaye said to him, Lo shavik marchaye l'chol bria, that the master would not let any creature live if he adopts such a stand. If you, Rava, are going to say that you're a Benoni, the rest of us are Risha'im. You're not letting any of us live. Okay, so, and he says, he explains that what I just said, that although Rava was certainly a completely righteous in thought and deed, he feared that his evil inclination was merely dormant, but was not completely eradicated. Thus, by the above yardstick, he would be categorized as an average person. So Abaye says, for even if you are in the category of an average person, who could possibly be considered completely righteous? In other words, we're all in trouble. That is, by the way, if you ever learn Tanya, that is where they start with. When talking about Ben Onim, and they bring this down, and the Balatanya, the one who wrote the Tanya, Rav Shneur al Zalman of Leidi, he uses this whole concept to tell us how to do tshuva. So it's an interesting concept. Okay, we'll have to stop here. Thank you. My pleasure.